All right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Just real quick, Dan and Mark, can you hear us okay?
I can.
Okay, oh, you're Dan? Oh, sorry. I guess you can hear us okay. All right, before we go on to number 2, I need to hear or get a motion to allow remote attendees for the meeting.
I'm planning to move.
Do I get a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Same for nay. Well, anyway, all right. So we'll go on to number 2. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? Any? Nothing?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. I got a motion.
Second.
Got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, probably should check with Mark from time to time. Then number 3, we got public comments. Anybody here with public comments?
Doesn't look like we have anybody signed up, so.
Nope. Okay, thank you. All right, that brings up number 4. We need to elect a new chairman for the committee. Do I hear any nominations or suggestions?
I think there was a conversation we had about rotating how we did this, how we appointed, right? So we would have the chairman would be from one of the 3 municipalities, and then the vice chairman will be for the other one.
Okay.
Okay. So we've got the vice chairman taken care of. So now it would just be nominating a chairman for the board.
Or the vice chair could move to the chairman's position.
That's possible too.
I'd be okay with that. So as a new board member, are you already the vice chair? Is that?
Yeah, sorry, yes, I'm the vice chair.
Do we, just point of order, I guess, do we need to appoint or accept new members? Because I'm a new member, Garrett's a new
Yeah,
member.
we're both brand new today.
Oh, yeah.
So is
So
that part
you're
of the
correct, you're
protocol?
absolutely correct.
Yes.
We should,
Yes.
so before we get into the chairman situation, we have 2 new members. If you guys will announce yourselves, so for the record.
Brian Sager, City of Woodstock.
City of Woodstock and,
And Garrett Anderson, also City of Woodstock.
okay. So we have 2 new members. Do I have a motion to accept them as
So moved.
set, and do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, welcome to the committee.
Great. So now we can actually vote.
Yes, now you can officially vote.
Thank you.
Make a motion
for
a while
that.
ago, so I don't know if that's inappropriate, but.
No, that was, thank you for pointing that out.
Absolutely.
All right, so now we're back to discussion about electing a chairman.
I'd make a motion for moving the vice chair to the chair.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Are you okay with that? Do you? Are
Yeah,
you
I'm
willing
okay
to-
with
I
it.
think that's a question. Are
It
you
is.
willing to do it?
It's not a
Yeah,
draft.
when I volunteer for the vice chair, I knew every once in a while I'd have to fill in. So I kind of expect, when I saw this on the agenda, I figured I'd have to.
Great.
Or, well, be willing to do it, sorry.
That's great. Great. You'd have to. It would be a wonderful opportunity, right? That's what
Yes.
I just didn't want to presume how the rest of the committee felt. Okay, so do we have discussion, anything else on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Nope.
Bye-bye.
All right, so thank you everyone for that vote of confidence. But that now leaves the vice chair.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so is that inferred that the election of a vice chair now becomes a new action item, even though it's not on the agenda? Because
Right, that would be 4.1A.
we're on A.
I have a nomination. It's okay. I would nominate Garrett Anderson from the City of Woodstock. He's
Sure.
been coming to our meetings quite regularly for a long time, and I think he's familiar with the zone.
Are there any concerns that this is not on the agenda, that, there would be an Open Meetings Act issue here?
That was kind of what I was asking, yeah. Is it inferred that there's a replacement action available because we just
Yeah, according to the bylaws.
Because we just moved a person out of
I don't
one
think there
position.
would be a bylaw issue here. I think, I personally wouldn't do it, but ultimately, I'm not a member of this board.
But there'd be no harm to have
I don't
the
think
election
we-
of the vice president on the next agenda.
Yeah,
Sure.
so
We can
we'll,
do that.
we'll make sure to put it on the
Next
agenda for,
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah,
So who sets the agenda? Is that you or you?
it's, well, we've been doing it
We
together.
coordinate.
Yes.
Make a note of it.
Yeah.
For next time.
And that's, I'll take the hit for that, because again, I didn't want to presume that the vice chair moves up.
Sure.
Otherwise, I would have suggested that we put an action item in there.
Sure.
So, all right, so we'll make sure in the next agenda to have that. And as a safety, in case anybody else, either the secretary wants to move up or we just stick with that. So let's just put those two on there so we're ahead of the curve. Worst case scenario, we can strike the second part. Okay?
It was secretary and treasurer.
Oh, and treasurer.
And treasurer.
Yeah.
I don't
So we'll just put those all on.
Yep, good, got it.
You put
Maybe something
election of
like election of
officers and the
officers,
list
right?
them,
Yeah,
yeah,
election of
that are
officers,
covered,
that's-
election of officers.
Right.
So, there is a secretary and treasurer in the bylaws then?
There was a secretary and treasurer previously. I don't have bylaws in front of me, but I think so.
I go get what you like.
There was, because Dave, my predecessor, was actually the secretary.
Okay.
Mhm.
So,
So that way we put election of officers.
Yep.
That covers us.
right.
Well, I think the officers, you had to be an officer to be able to be on the bank card to sign checks.
Correct.
So I was the secretary, I think, and Dave was the treasurer maybe, or vice versa.
Nick Radcliffe was the secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jonathan Day.
Nick, he is now, Nick is now,
Oh,
right?
sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So those two have already been
That's what
elected
it is currently.
for this current year? They've already been elected then? or
I
is
think
that-
that was at the last meeting, or 2 meetings ago. We did that
It would have been 3 meetings
3
ago.
meetings ago.
It was the first meeting that Marengo was accepted in.
Okay.
It would have been my first meeting as well.
Well, if Nick was, and I apologize for my bad memory, but if Nick was the secretary, was I the treasurer? Because, or did I sign that check thing, this check signing over to you? Or you had to go because Mark wanted to get off it?
My understanding is you're one of them, and then,
Lose one.
Yeah, and I'm one as the vice chair.
So I think we were elected as treasurer the last time around. Tiana, was that what it was in the last meeting notes?
I don't know that now.
Yeah, I believe that's what it was.
And this is gonna be a whole new setup. I don't mean to be talking out of turn a little bit. Because my understanding, the checks are gonna be coming from Ed or that corporation, and we will not be signing them like we were before. Is that right?
well, as of right now, it's still through the bank,
Yeah.
the existing bank, and so we do need two, my understanding. So
Okay.
that hasn't changed yet. If there's, if there's a desire to do that, we can talk about and do it, if it makes sense, but I haven't made a change to that yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So we do have, but one of them, I think, is no longer, was Mark Saladin one of them?
Mark was one of them.
So we have to replace Mark, we have to nominate or,
Yeah, and so what we'll do is, with the vote next meeting,
yeah, which is,
we'll clarify, if there is a new person, that new person needs to have their name on the bank as a signatory.
right. And we have one now.
You have 2 now.
Actually,
Two now. So you're gonna be on it? Okay, I thought Mark was the one that was on it, he got off it.
Mark, there was Mark, myself.
Oh, you had three of you?
We had 3.
Okay, got it. Because we only need two, is my understanding, right?
Yeah, you only need 2. I was thinking I think there was, all the officers could sign it, no?
Yeah, I think we left it that way because with Charlie, it was where he was at and where he could get a signature.
Yeah,
Is that
So
not
it left a little
bylaws?
room.
I don't have the bylaws in front of me.
How about we double check that? And
It'll be on the
bring it
agenda
back.
for next meeting and we'll know by then
Correct.
what's what, but my opinion would be if we only need 2, when we've got 2, then we're good to go. But we'll confirm all that and have it ready for the next meeting.
Thank you. Good, okay. So next up is a resolution setting the 2024 meeting dates for the board. Everyone had a chance to look at it?
I have not. Do we have a copy of that?
Well, Garrett, you just got
Excuse me.
on. How come you haven't seen it?
I'm a paper person, you make fun of me.
So the dates proposed are January 19th, then April 19th, July 19th, and October 18th.
18th.
All at 10 o'clock a.m.
Is Friday the best for everybody, for the most part?
10 o'clock still a good time? Yeah.
Good with that. I think it works for me.
All right,
Good for you, Alicia?
I'll be wherever you guys tell me to be.
So I make a motion to approve
thank you.
the resolution. I don't know if it has a number. The resolution setting the board meetings for 2024.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? All right. Thank you very much. Next up is a resolution to adopt a financial policy regarding the McHenry County Enterprise Zone expense authorization.
Yeah.
You want to go through that?
Yeah, this is, just to put some context and some guardrails around, my understanding was we didn't have one that was stated. And so I just thought it might make sense to formalize it a little bit. The thing I took into consideration in trying to put something together though was that if it has to be prior approved by the board, which is reasonable, depending on the expense, we meet 4 times a year. So there's always gonna be a timing issue. So there will be times when obviously it's gonna be an after the fact approval, but that's where just discretion comes in and, we'll have to make sure that we make right decisions. But right now, the proposal is, for meals, it's the same, and I conferred with Charlie on this, it's the same as it has been with meals, meaning entertaining, it's $100 a guest. For lunch, it's $50, and for breakfast, it's $35 per person, or for ourselves, right? Okay, so that's no change, but so we left it at that.
Can I
Yeah.
interject? Does that line up, Alicia, with the IRS regulations? That was brought up one time previous, and
I would hate to opine on that on the spot.
Okay.
It is definitely more than what the county is. And I'm not entirely sure it's per guest, but again, it was a very,
Let me make a correction, I misspoke for a second. For the guests, for entertaining, it's the 150 and 35. But for meals, for myself, it would be whatever the county is, the McHenry County policy is. The county policy is.
okay. I don't have a disagreement with that number. I just, as long as we're within, there was an issue before about how the meals were lining up with the IRS and the county allocations.
and again, since that conversation has happened, IRS has, revamped its, guidelines going forward. And, if you would like me to look it up, I can. Great, thank you.
At some point, I suppose we need to know that, because, I mean, if we're giving somebody that kind of value, then the IRS only allows a certain amount, then we gotta send them a 1099 at the end of the year. Shouldn't have to, I know, but
Yeah.
there was some concern. I know Peter Austin had some concerns when we were talking about it one other time.
Okay.
I'm just not sure how that lines up. Yeah, I don't wanna be nitpicking here.
Well, no, and my assumption was that it since it was in place, it was compliant, but we should check, make sure.
Can we not just make a motion to approve the limits subject to being consistent with the county and IRS guidelines?
For our employee, but for a guest, it would be this, because if I.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
except
correct.
this
The
policy,
IRS is lower than this.
right, except this
They're
policy,
lower.
is subject to.
I could,
So you're saying the IRS is lower than this? And I think that's where the issue comes in, that it is lower. So now you're giving somebody a value above what they allow, and is it taxable?
But he's approving it subject to that.
Okay.
Confirmation.
If it, in case it's lower.
Yeah, but it might have
Okay.
gone up
Okay.
too. Have we looked it up?
it is gone, but not to this level.
You don't think it's gonna be that high?
No.
Well, maybe our motion should just be to be consistent with IRS and county regulations.
Sounds fair.
The other motion that can be out there is to table this until the next meeting to verify, or postpone to the next meeting to verify.
Because we may find that the IRS, and I understand, but if you're entertaining a guest, and depending on where you're at, if you're in Chicago or some of those other locations,
It's gonna vary.
it's gonna vary, and we're gonna need to be higher than the IRS.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna be out
And I agree,
entertaining,
'cause
you're not gonna be entertaining a guest and saying, oh, you can only get a cup of coffee and a croissant, because it's
Yeah.
I think it's $13 for
Right.
breakfast, and you can't even
in
hardly get a cup
Kansas,
of
you can have a
coffee.
9-course meal.
Correct, so.
I'm not quite so concerned about the IRS regulations as much as I am the county for employees. And that's, I think we just need to be consistent with employees, but for the guests, I mean, we're trying to encourage people to come to the county, and we don't want to be, what?
Cheap?
Cheap. Thank you, Marty.
Well, or we don't wanna have to tell a guest, well, you can't order
Yeah, I get
eggs and
that.
bacon because it's
Or you
more
pitch,
money.
or you pitch in and say, we can only go to.
Yeah,
so you
I
come
mean,
to- right.
that
So-
doesn't help.
Brian, so you would rather see a motion that approves it subject to conference on the McHenry County policy?
That's what I think we should do.
For
Because I'm
entertaining,
comfortable
or
with
for the,
$100.
because the entertaining is the only one that is the 150 and 35 meals, meaning employee, is per policy. It's already stated that way.
Okay.
So it's already stated where.
McHenry County policy.
Okay.
So whatever the per diem or what, that would apply to myself.
As long as it meets the regulations. I always felt a little bit funny when I was being asked to sign a check and I wasn't sure that it met the regulations,
County regulations.
county regulations.
So yeah,
What
so
would the
So
IRS
we have to
allow?
check our policy, you're saying that?
you check the policy on guests.
Right, for entertaining, right? That's
Because
considered entertaining.
the staff member would already be matching the county.
Right, right, and that's what the
So
entertaining.
it's the guest part,
Right.
it's the entertainment part.
I don't believe the county does entertain guests. I don't believe, for expenditure purposes, I don't.
Well-
Again, maybe I could be wrong, and I do believe that I believe that's actually one of the items that was on the board agenda not too long ago are going to be.
Sounds to me like we just need to postpone this till
Yeah,
next meeting.
we're starting to get into the muck of it, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's not gonna be a tremendous amount of it anyway.
That's what I was gonna ask, is there gonna be a lot of that between now and next meeting?
No.
And I would move to postpone until the next
Yes.
successive meeting.
Second.
All in favor of postponing this to the next meeting?
Aye.
Thank you.
So then Ed can find out, and Alicia.
Yeah.
So, and if you can also verify that the employee side matches the county as well.
Okay, it's written up to match it right now.
Yeah, and just, so because I fear we're gonna have the same conversation again, so, just so you can verify it.
Got it,
Okay?
got it.
Kind of streamline the next
I
conversation.
know, I hear you, I'm with you. Okay,
All right, so next up is a resolution to approve the expenditures. Has everyone had a chance to take a look?
you can see we went wild.
Yeah.
Actually, it was just me. Charlie was unable to make it due to a family circumstance. So, and obviously, we didn't have prior approval, but I wanted to get your approval on it. After the fact, but. So this is from the 12th, the Rock Island Conference.
Move to approve.
Yeah.
Second.
All right, discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
If we're following county rules, and I don't know, it's money, so it should be each person vote. I'm looking at my
Oh, roll call vote?
roll call,
Okay,
so
thank you for correcting me. First time sitting in this chair.
you're doing great, Lou.
All right, so can we get a roll call vote?
Sure. Radcliffe,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Sagar,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Stricker,
Yes.
Leone.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. All right, next up is the resolution to approve transition agreement with Charles Eldredge. Charlie.
Yes. So we, when we made the change that was voted on last meeting, I got with Charlie and we talked about what the transition would look like. So we simply put it down on paper, put it in writing, and had him agree to it, make sure that he was comfortable with it. And so if you've read it, and if there's any objections to it, it's in place right now, just because it really dealt with extending his salary to the end of the year. And also turning over everything that needed to be turned over and so forth and all that. And by the way, Charlie has been great. He's been there when I need him, he calls, we're utilizing him still. He's been great on the transition of information, understanding things, helping explain things to us if we need be. So it's been working out really well. So I applaud him for that. And just so everybody knows, that the EZ bought a table at the MCEDC annual dinner, and the board members, I've reached out to everybody to be invited to sit at that table, because we're not gonna do a big ordeal, but we're gonna just say, so, you know, acknowledge Charlie's retirement and say some things. So we thought that would be a nice send off. Okay, so a motion for
So
the,
looking for a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Discussion? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Once again, it involves.
Oh, yeah, I was waiting. I was looking right over there for you. I wasn't sure. All right, can we get a roll call vote on that?
Sorry. Anderson,
Yes.
Sauger,
Yes.
Radcliffe,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Stricker,
He's, yeah. You're on mute?
Mark Stricker. Can't hear you. Is he muted, Dan?
Be muted.
You're muted.
All right.
He's away. Leone.
Yes.
Smith, yes.
Smith, I'm so sorry. It's weird
Well,
when you
he's
guys are
catching
sitting,
us
I keep
all
looking
day.
at Alicia and like, this is odd, but Smith.
All right, so the resolution passes.
Thanks for that, working with Charlie, and
Yeah.
and I'm glad that everything's going well.
yeah, it's the right thing to do, and he's been great.
Great.
Next up, marketing of McHenry County Enterprise Zone.
Okay, before we get into that, just since I brought up the conference we went to, I just wanted to, James helped us out here. On these thumb drives, I'm gonna give one to Donovan, Nick, and Garrett. It's basically all of the presentations, and most of the important presentations and everything that were given at the conference. I thought the conference was good. I think probably provided me more value maybe than others, but it was good in that I kind of got a sense for how it operates. Met people from the state level. Some of them talked about some things. Not all of it was relevant to kind of the EZ. There was a lot of, I don't want to say self-promotion, but there was a lot of presentations about what they do and so forth. And then there was, of course, a lot about Rock Island and the history of the EDC with Rock Island and everything. Interesting, but the important stuff basically captured on the thumb drives. There's a new manual. They just finished revising the manual. That's on there. And then I think there's 3 presentations? Yeah. Yeah, there's 3 presentations on there. So, yep. Okay, any questions? I did meet Ben Denny, who's our state representative, or the EZ representative for the state, and had a conversation with him. He's really a wealth of knowledge. He's been doing this all his life, and he knows everything inside and out. I asked if he would be interested in coming up and speaking to us when we get like our joint meeting we've been talking about, and he's all for that. Now, he says that. I don't know him yet, if that's just being courteous, but if you guys are all in agreement, thinking that he could be of value to that meeting, being there, coming up and talking to everybody, then, you know, we would invite him. We'll find a date and then we would invite him to that, but only if you all think it's gonna be of value. So we don't have to decide that now, but I just wanted to give it a download. Okay. All right. So yes. So speaking of our meeting, marketing, that's what does that mean? Who's doing what? Blah, blah, blah. But we do have to come to some agreement on marketing. And I think at least the way I'm looking at it, but give me your opinions, jump in. But my thinking is that we want to, from the EZ zone perspective, we don't need to be the lead marketer in this effort, right? I think the lead marketing should come from the local municipalities. So you're marketing, branding, messaging your message the way you want it to be, okay? I see the EZ marketing on a less scaled, less significant basis. A, we don't have the budget for it, but B, we would just do things that are more inclusive or more general to the McHenry County EZ. I think that's probably the proper role for us to play. But I think, you know, we would be looking at making sure our links are on, you know, your links are on our website, and anything special that needs to come up and be emphasized is on our website. We'll play that role to kind of augment your messaging. But I think, unless you all disagree, I think it's best that the primary messaging comes from the local markets, the municipalities. If help is needed by us, obviously we'll be happy to help. Thoughts on that approach to marketing before we decide to try to define it?
I'm supportive of that general path, yeah.
Okay.
We're okay with that from our side, from our angle.
Brian?
I'm in agreement with the concept. The concern that I have is that certainly different entities are going to have different capacity in terms of the staffing and the available time and those types of things. So I think maybe we need to talk a little bit about that to find out if there are some specific needs from specific members, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
Because it may be different a little bit from one, well, obviously will be different from one member to next.
It will be. And this is something we'll talk again, just so you don't think this is the final conversation on it, at our meeting that we have with the joint municipalities for that exact reason, right? To talk about the individual needs and kind of make sure we're aware of how we want to handle that. But any thoughts on it now would be, I'd welcome.
I think one of the things that was pivotal in the original conversations when the enterprise zone was formed was the fact that certainly there's going to be a sense of self-interest there. I mean, there always is going to be a certain amount of self-interest, but at the same time, the purpose of the zone is to be very strongly collaborative and working together. And I know that that was part of the conversation as working with Marengo and talking about inviting them in as well. And so I think we want to keep that as a continued primary goal and effort here, is to certainly work collaboratively. And I think that that's perhaps where the EDC can make an effort to kind of look at the totality, if you will, of what we're doing. And I know that these things cost money, so I'm not suggesting these are absolute, but I know one thing that you hear quite often on the radio, WBBM, for example, if you're a big fan of WBBM, but you hear about the Blue Islands effort that goes on down there, and that could be a broad general thing that could be done by EDC that would help the totality of the group in a collaborative effort. And then when it comes to specific marketing needs of individual communities, they can, or entities, they can kind of identify those and take the lead on those.
So you said it better than me, but yes, I agree with that. I think we don't have the bandwidth or the budget or the expertise to do marketing to the degree that I think the municipalities want to do it or could do it. But we do have to make sure that it's collaborative enough to make up to where there are gaps and so forth. And those would be things that I think we talk about as a group. And so we're not, there's overlap, but there's not redundancy, if that makes sense. But I think that's the power of it. And we are, it is the McHenry County Enterprise Zone, so that has to be out there, that has to be,
Right.
broadcast, that's gotta be
Exactly.
promoted and so forth. But I never wanna do it without there being clear branding, or call it what we will, recognition of the three markets,
Right.
I think that's important.
May I speak, Chair?
Yes.
One thing that I've noticed in McHenry County as far as communications go, and I would like to make it one of my own priorities going forward, is to have a more unified presence for communications with the county and municipalities in general. And I mean, I've already spoken with Heather, from the city of Woodstock. She's fantastic. Love her. She's come to some of our events, as is Danielle. And again, I mean, it would be, but again, I would love to have more contact with some of the other folks in the different municipalities that, perform various communications functions. And perhaps that can also be a way to try to bring us together and maybe, be able to come together with the EDC and with, the enterprise zone and, just have a more cohesive message that way. I mean, I don't know, for example, in Harvard, usually it's, the PIOs over there, the, city administrator and, the police chief. Usually that's how it works. But if you have other persons who, who wear different hats, say, perhaps, you could send them to talk to me, and we can all get together and have a meeting and work other municipalities in as well.
Excuse me, to Brian's point, we have limited bandwidth, as we say, to really prepare some of those marketing pieces.
Understood.
And so I do think the collaboration, which goes without saying, because then when you have the bigger items that it helps to attract interest initially to start. And then obviously each of our zones have their own unique pieces to them that can be showcased. But I think having that overall message would be helpful in the competitive marketplace anyways, as we're moving forward and making sure, in a general sense, we're all speaking off of the same song sheet, but then recognizing each individual municipality has their unique attributes. But we would need some assistance just because of our limited staffing and limited budget. We don't really have a marketing budget. So.
Right. And I think what, the benefits of the EZ being under or within the EDC is that, to your point, we can leverage the EDC website, and should as well. But again, we want to have a smart, clear, unredundant, non-redundant message going out there. But I think that's also a way, Laura, that we can, I don't want to say lean into Marengo, but maybe that is where you highlight Marengo or something. We don't want to get it unbalanced, but I think we have to recognize where certain municipalities may be held at this point.
I guess I have two questions. The first is, I saw in the minutes previously that there was a discussion kind of the approach. Is that in the bylaws themselves, so that we would have to have a kind of a choreographed description for consideration for the bylaws and a change to the bylaws? Or is this more of a programmatic approach, operational approach? We're gonna have to.
I don't have the bylaws, but I don't think it's in the bylaws.
Yeah,
I don't think so either. I think this is more programmatic. I mean, the bylaws are very high level for the most part.
Yeah.
All right.
That prescriptive.
Well, I think that's positive because that saves us some time. So that's great. So that's the first one. The second thing is I'm confident that every member has their own kind of approach, their own taglines, their own logos, all those types of things. And I think that that's as it should be. But I'm also wondering if you brought up just a while ago the brand, and I'm wondering if we shouldn't be having a brand description that could be very complementary to what's going on with individual differentiation in the approach. But maybe that should be, once we kind of come to the agreement, of how we want to kind of orchestrate the overall organization. Maybe that would be the next level of what is that brand that we're going to adopt for the zone at large, and how will that dovetail with the other approaches of the members?
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balance between it all connecting while also preserving the individualities of what they are. But I think that's a good point, because I think it's the collective nature of what everybody offers that makes McHenry so special. And so we can't lose that in this. But typically, you know, and that's why I'm hoping that we can, in the meetings when we come together, this is what we work on. Because you can't not work on it together if you want the messaging to be together, right?
Well, and I know I'm speaking too much, I apologize.
No,
that's good.
That's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
I think that that needs to be a key element, you know, working together. This is what McHenry County presents, you know. And I think that togetherness, that global collaborative effort needs to be kind of a key element to that new brand that we might be putting out there.
It's exactly right, and that's why I was saying, like, we'll do stuff that's more holistic in nature, messaging wise, and it will connect to the municipalities, or the municipalities connect up to that. But how we do that will be all of us agreeing together on what it should be. But it's absolutely right.
Well, I think that well, number one, constituents are begging for that today, in my opinion. You know, they want to start seeing units of government working together instead of the agonistic approach that we seem to have right now. And I think in the individual members here, I think we've been able to sort some of that out and really do a good job. I'm frankly very proud of the county board right now. I think that there's some strong interest to work together. But another side of that is, if we're looking to attract business, the last thing they want to interject themselves into is an agonistic environment. And so they want to know that they're coming to a place that is truly working together, and that is not pitting one against another, because, you know, again, I think across the board, everybody's getting sick of all that.
I concur with that, and I would like to put forward a suggestion for you to think about. Right now, McHenry County has a joint brand with, naturally, McHenry County and the EDC. Perhaps the McHenry County Enterprise Zone could come on to that from a logo and color branding scheme, and, you know, font brands, you know, like your physical promotional, like have that be incorporated along with. Why can't the zone join the brand? I don't see why not, and that would show that exact cohesiveness that you guys have talked about. Now, the different promise of that brand, however, would be different, because you would have, the promise of that brand would talk about the individual uniqueness of Marengo and what it brings to the brand, what Woodstock brings to, you know, the zone, what Harvard brings to the zone. So we would all put it together. And again, as it stands, you know, the Natural Aid brand, you know, has done very, very well across the county, and it's supposed to, and it does, showcase the different municipalities as it stands. So it seems like a natural piece, and then it wouldn't require us to create something from scratch. It would reinforce that across this region. So that's just my 2 cents.
And like at the last meeting, there was quite a bit of time spent by myself trying to emphasize that each one of us maintain focus on this end. And I'll take this moment to say thank you for right away addressing my concerns after that meeting, and taking the steps to you know, reach out to Donovan and I in the city of Harvard. But that was my focus. It may have been a little more vocal than most people are used to, but to make sure that we get that focus out here, both as individuals, but also as a group, because you know, and he's heard me say this many times. We're like a spider web out here. Whatever affects one affects the others. You know, I've often said this. 14, expanding 14 helps out Woodstock as much as it helps out Harvard, and 23 helps out Marengo again as much as it helps out Harvard. And when you look at it, it connects so that people can literally travel from one to the other in a much safer environment. So yes, keeping that focus that we are individuals, but we all need to help each other out to prosper out here. So if it takes a branding method, I think we should explore it. Or at least, yeah, well, yeah, explore it. Let's take that horse out and see what happens.
Okay, so I think that's about as deep as we want to get into the marketing
Yeah.
piece right now, so, but if does anybody else have any, Mark, online, if you're back, or does anybody else have anything to input?
I don't have anything for
Thank you, Mark. All right, we done on that
Yes.
topic? All right. Let's go to the administrative report.
Okay, so, this was probably a little different than you've seen in the past. If it was in your packet, I believe, right? Yeah, it was in the packet. Okay, so, that was my attempt to bring us all together in the upper right-hand corner. Yeah. This kind of speaks more to what's happened since we've taken over, just to kind of give everybody a level set and feel comfortable with the progress that's being made or the things that are being addressed and so forth. But like I mentioned, the transition with Charlie went well. It's going well, and we're gonna recognize him at the dinner, the EDC dinner. And if I haven't reached out to anybody on the board relative to sitting at that table, please let me know. Because I think we've got one chair left, one or two chairs left still at that table, so let me know. Several meetings been conducted where we visited the individual municipalities, extremely helpful to James and I, and we appreciate your time on that. And the next step would be for us to talk about how do we now come together, as we said earlier, and talk about the subjects that we mentioned. The website update. The easy website update. So we did some immediate updates on it just to get like the names and the phone numbers and emails and all that corrected. And we added Marengo, of course, and all of that. So that's stuff that had to get done right away. We got done right away. There's still some functionality issues, I think, with it, and still some additional updates that the website could use. So again, I think I got that on the list for our meeting, our group meeting, one of the topics for us to talk about. You know, how bold do we want to get? Again, it's a money issue, and I don't know how much, you know, what the budgets look like exactly for everybody, but it does need to, A, I think, be more compelling, and B, ensure that it's as connected as it needs to be. So, but we'll talk about that, but that was just something I wanted to mention. The bank signee, we've already talked about that. That's pending next board meeting. I did talk about the conference, and I'll try to do that. This at any of those conferences I go to, come back with the download and some information and pass it on to you all, and you can review it as you see fit. I've included in here top line financials. So I'll just run through these, and then James is going to hand out a broader set of financial reports that you'll get every board meeting. There'll be a brief, skinny down every month financial report, but that board meetings it'll be what you're getting today, more broad. Okay, but just to give everybody an understanding, through September, year-to-date September, we're at 91. The budget, we're at 91% of budget. Of our year-to-date budget through September. We're at 72% of our expense budget. And so as a result, net income, we're at 123% of year-to-date budget. Prior year, if we look at this versus prior year, our net income, or our total income is up 4%. Total expenses are down 12%. Net income as a result up almost 30%. And so that, you know, now there's a lot of that's going to change. A lot of that has to do with the flow of the business. We've had, obviously, all of the membership fees are upfronted, uploaded, and then we got other expenses that are straight line throughout the year and so forth. So that's going to ebb and flow. One of the things that, yeah, why don't you hand those out, James, so we can. One of the things on the reports that we're working towards, it still kind of is a work in progress, but I want to provide detailed reports for you guys, at least monthly, but we're also working at a projection report. So, I mean, there are things that we know now about what's gonna happen in the future, and we should be putting that into the projection report in terms of where we anticipate coming in at budget versus prior year. So those will be things, I'm not gonna get into the obviously, our high charts, you can see, it spent me 2 days to decide legal or letter, but. Yes, exactly, I figured legal would be, or letter would be, legal would be the way to go. But there's just some explanations on it, just kind of basically what I talked about. And there's some not discrepancies, but there's some big changes versus history. So if you're looking at the front page of what James just handed out, the partner contributions, obviously that's due to Marengo. The project fees, behind versus history and budget, that's due to Petdine last year spending about $13,000 more in project fees. We didn't have a big project yet at this point, so that's the delta. Total income year to date, as I said, is up almost 4%. The other issue here I've called out is the 22 wages. The increase or the decrease versus last year really reflects Charlie was paid some compensation for addendums, I guess, that he wrote up last year. And so that explains why it's high last year, year to date versus this year. And then there was another call out on contractual services. Some extra money was paid. That was for the drone pictures that Charlie hired a gentleman to take those drone pictures. And then the price increase from Sejian, I'll say it that way. Anybody else want to pronounce it differently? And that was a one-time thing, or at least it won't be, it's not annual. And so again, net it puts us in a good position for net income year to date. We're up against budget and prior year. But again, that's going to fluctuate from month to month. And you will get monthly reports, but the monthly report will resemble this top report, basically. But if you want the other additional stuff, you just ask and we will get it for you. Any questions on the numbers or reports or reporting that we plan on doing?
Appreciate it. Okay. This is good.
Okay. Great. And then outstanding issues, getting back to the report, outstanding issues, we talked about them already, marketing and the website update, and then just some other news. The Dean's Food Plant, we're actually in talks with the gentleman. We've talked to him maybe 3 times. We got a meeting tomorrow with him where he's bringing in some people, we're bringing in some additional people. Tuesday, yeah, Tuesday. Exawatt USA, they're a solar panel and solar cell company. They're interested in the Dean's Food Plant. They said they like it, they want it. They just want to find out exactly what all of the incentive options are, what it means to them before they make a final decision. But they seem to be pretty genuine. But you know, you don't know until something's signed. So we'll wait and see. But that's in play right now. They're going to have one building in Rockford that will make panels, solar panels, and then one here will make solar cells. So they're talking about 50, 60 people that start, employees that start, and then about 150 in a couple of years.
Is that at Chemung?
That's the Chemung plant, yes, for Chemung location, yes. They're headquartered out of China, I believe it's headquartered out of China. And so far they've been, you know, they're pleased with the factory that comes with the water, sewer, some of the pre-connects already are there. So they've been very impressed. He's seen it a number of times. So they're saying all the right things, but we'll see how things go. Let's see, and then just reiterating some of the stuff from the prior report. I'm going to reach out to the ICSC to see if there's any connections we can make relative to, per Charlie's report, all the hotel calls he's getting, calls for hotel chains and so forth. And I know just from talking to all of you that if there's anything McHenry County needs, it's more hotels. So we'll just see if there's some people we can make connections with and so forth. And then, Lou, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the last report, you guys were still considering the multifamily issue, and
Yeah.
I don't know if there's, my understanding is it's still in consideration.
It is, and I was going to reach out to Garrett and Marengo to see if what they felt about it and if you wanted to participate. So if we're going to do it, if all of us want to do it, then we can do it. Otherwise, if we just want to do it in the Harvard area. So everyone can chime in,
Yeah, that's good.
how they feel about it.
You already had multifamily?
I believe when we did the last IGA
Okay.
revision, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I think we included multifamily at that time.
Okay, and I don't think Marengo has that.
I think I mentioned it last time, but the main nuance for us is that the school district doesn't want to participate
Right.
because that's one of their direct impacts to their funding for the students.
Right.
So if it's a residential project with enterprise zone, our school district is out on the property tax element.
Okay.
But it still helps with the MAC and the other elements of the enterprise zone would still help on a residential project.
Okay. And my understanding is that depending on how many communities join in, it limits the number of public meetings we have to have on it versus, or no, increases it. So again, that's all part of the coordination. So,
Yeah.
but we'll probably be coming back hopefully next meeting.
Yeah, Charlie said we just need to submit a one-line request or ask, and then do all the other steps with each board approving it, county approving it.
Okay. So we'll put that on the next meeting agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just for the municipalities, normally this report is more the download from what's happening in different municipalities. We'll get back to that after kind of this house cleaning report. I sent out a note to you all just asking if you wanted to provide information that you want to be noted. So I can do that or I can not if you don't want that extra email. But I can just, if that's helpful, that way you can provide, you can, okay. Right, that's it on that report.
I was just thinking about it prior, but Brian brought up a good point. On the agenda, if we can go forward with having essentially a member round, so we can just go around and say what's going on. If you feel comfortable doing that, I mean, some people want to hold back a little bit, and that's fine. We do that at the council. I'm sorry, what?
Community reports.
Yeah,
Partner reports or whatever.
Yeah.
partner reports, that's a good term for it. Partner reports. And then new business, if there's something for the EZ itself. If we can have that as just a standing line items on the agenda.
Perfect.
All right, well,
Is that something we do now as part of the administrative report, or is that something for later?
what's that?
To give a report about our.
Well, I'm looking at you to make sure we're not violating OMA. We don't have it on
Is that a
here.
function of the
Well,
administrative
you're
report?
you're not creating any action, so
No.
again, I mean,
Okay.
if you're discussing, I don't see why it couldn't be discussed.
So, we can go around the room.
What you're saying, that could take place of basically what would be
Oh,
this
yeah.
report, or at least some of it, because
Some of it.
what we can do is
That'll-
we can make, we can talk about the numbers or other issues. Like, I don't have to have that in my report. If you guys are gonna speak to it, I'm fine with that, right? I just wanna make sure you're all getting what you want out of it.
No, but I think-
Sometimes there's more details or more, like maybe one of us has a question. It's probably a good time at that point to just elaborate on it. So you can still include it as part of the report because that becomes part of the record.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, writing a report that includes all of the active projects, for example, the ones that have been approved, the ones that are still in progress right now. If anything, it gives us an opportunity to speak about best practices of how we worked with the client and
Okay.
help each other learn how to do it
So-
better.
So you'll send something to me prior to the board meeting? Could you get it to me like a week prior? Because that's when we wanna start sending these packets out to y'all,
Okay.
a week ahead of time.
So as a rule of thumb, if you got something you want to include in the admin report as far as projects, send it out at least a week prior to the meeting. Otherwise, we'll still do the partnership round, but it's more, as Garrett suggested, best practices.
Perfect.
A lot of the project lists will be coming through you anyway for approvals and getting the paperwork
Yeah,
to the state,
yeah.
so you should be,
Yeah.
already have a good basis.
That's what I'm saying, it's,
But yeah.
but I like, you guys might wanna expand on it.
Yeah, and sometimes there's things that pop up, if you put together admin reports or agenda packets, we put ours together on Thursday, Friday before the council meeting, but something inevitably comes up in between. And with a week lead time, I'm sure there'll be something that pops up. So again, it leaves that little bit of room to be able to talk about it, at the meeting.
And if it doesn't work, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
If it gets too cumbersome, we'll do what's right. So. Okay, that's the report.
All right, cool. I'd be happy to share a few things.
Yes.
Yeah, go right ahead.
As far as ones under construction right now, the main one is the Food Shed Co-op. It's a retail grocery kind of a thing down on Highway 14. It's been long anticipated. I think they've been working on this for 10 years or so, gathering memberships and support, but it's finally under construction. Lou, you might be able to correct me, but Ed, I think that's the only active one we have right now.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of paperwork.
We got a couple other ones that have closed already, but I'm thinking that might be the only open one right now. Two big ones that are on the horizon, the downtown diecast site, Union Place, we're expecting our phase one to begin this coming the approvals will be in November, January, kind of a timeline. Construction will begin in the spring as soon as it can. First phase will be a 70-unit senior living, senior independent apartments. So 5 stories, 70 units is the first phase for 2024. The other big one we're looking at is there's a group out of Lake County that's looking to move over here. Jim and I have spoken about it briefly, but I could definitely use I think it's time to introduce them to your team and just have a little bit of a welcome to the county kind of a thing. They're getting really close to making a decision in Woodstock. So there's 2 different buildings in Woodstock that they're looking at. Both of them are old Silgan plants. So Silgan was a manufacturing plant that used to have a couple locations in Woodstock. There's one off of McConnell Road and one off of Lake. And they keep going back and forth between those 2. But I think they're gonna pick the one on Lake. So it's where Harley has actually been using it most recently. That's back on the market. But it's a fairly major expansion. The building now is 187,000 square feet. They would expand it up to 300,000. They'd probably bring in 180 jobs, roughly. So we're pretty excited about it. It's a plastics manufacturing, which seems to be what we do around here. It's plastics manufacturing. But this Monday they were touring sites in Virginia. So it's not necessarily a done deal yet. We're still very much in a competitive environment on where they're going to locate. But I think we're leading the idea because just with the idea that they want to relocate their whole staff to Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's a big consideration.
if they're coming from Lake County, they want to be closer. So that's the 2 big ones that are coming. Tell a quick story. So 15, 20 years ago, I was working down in Southern Illinois, and we had a similar three community partnership thing that we would do between the communities of Salem, Centralia, and Mount Vernon, all down on I-57 South, right? So I worked for Centralia, and we got one of our best industrial leads. It was a brand new manufacturing plant. Came only because we had a really good relationship among those 3 communities, and there was a target that was looking at Mount Vernon as their #1 community, but Mount Vernon couldn't offer them the building size that they wanted. And it was actually the Mount Vernon staff that said, I think there's a building over in Centralia that's right about the size you need. It's not very far from here. You should go take a look. And sure enough, we landed a new manufacturing plant. So that's the background. So with that same kind of pattern in mind, I'm working with a local company in Woodstock now. The current name is Shea Labs. They've gone through a couple different names. If you've heard of Mommy Knows Best or TNT Labs, they basically make cosmetics. It's a variety of custom cosmetic products. They're in 10,000 square feet right now in the south side across from Harley Davidson in that little industrial park there. They're looking to move by, I think, February at the latest. Their lease is expiring at their current place and they need to get out. They'd love to be in somewhere in the neighborhood of 25,000 square feet. And right now, I cannot find anything in Woodstock that fits their needs. So, do y'all have anything in the neighborhood of 25 or 30,000 square feet?
Yes.
Where we can keep them close, because I don't want them to move too far away.
Yeah, there's one in Harvard now that's available. It's 30,000 square feet. I think it was $5 a square foot, if I remember correctly. It's on LoopNet. So that'd be work. And I know Mark has some space available. I don't know the square footage of what he has, but he's got some land and buildings ready to go.
Great, good. So look for it on New LoopNet.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that.
I will take a look and see if I can refer him. Tim Tierney is the guy's name, so if you could
Plenty of
call
land.
Tim Tierney.
Land.
Yeah,
No
Or
inventory,
anything.
though.
He needs to move into something,
Existing.
you know, in just a couple months, so he doesn't have time to.
Nothing yet for
Nothing
Marengo,
yet.
right?
Right.
Stay positive.
Yeah. It's coming.
Tim Tierney, he's probably 35-ish, he's a young, you know, excited guy. He's one of those guys that's just always on the move, you know? He's a young entrepreneur.
Okay.
But he's doing well, he's growing. All right, that's on it today. Oh, and I did talk to Bob Ross maybe 2 weeks ago, just to confirm that all the enterprise zone, the property tax abatements were being applied properly in the new tax bills that have been paid, and he confirmed that, yeah, everything, he worked with Charlie and made sure everything was
Good.
you know, back in, before the June tax bills would have been sent.
Yeah.
It's the time to do that.
We got some.
So that's a big annual task every year, is make sure that, powwow with Bob and make sure all the abatements are being approved properly, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else like to share anything?
Nothing easy
Yeah.
related.
Okay.
Well, our Ford dealership that's taking advantage of the program, they're under a roof now. It's a Ford expansion to accommodate EV vehicles, or EVs. So they're starting their interior build out now. I don't know what other projects capitalized on the EZ program in Harvard. I don't know if Dunkin' Donuts took advantage of it. They're wrapping up the exterior now.
I believe part of Dunkin' Donuts was, but there was another aspect that Charlie had let us know. It's a complicated, it's sort of a divided project, so, yeah, I don't know specifics off the top of my head, but checking with Charlie would bring that answer.
And you know, the old Motorola factory, they're looking to lease out other floors because US Medical Glove isn't utilizing all of it. So they've got several 100,000 feet of office space available, which we've been bringing through residential developers.
On the office side?
On the office side.
On the office side, and then they have a few 100,000 square feet available on the manufacturing side for lease, nothing's for sale. But I know the sheriffs and stuff have been doing training on the office side. Sounds like a lot of fun, but. And they, US Medical Glove, we keep pushing them to apply for the enterprise zone, but they haven't. We have a couple large manufacturers looking at Harvard. One is in McHenry County already, not in any of your municipalities, looking to expand their outer room. They would be placed into the enterprise zone, 20 employees, up to 30,000 square feet. Then we have another one that is looking at Harvard plus a couple other states.
Yeah.
$50 million project located within an enterprise zone. So we'll see if we can land that. But,
Last conversation, it's between us and Ohio.
yeah.
I told him you'd rather be a Cub fan.
Definitely.
So that's all we have. And then we have people waiting to see what happens with the multifamily.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
Yeah, any reports on whenever you guys get close to, you know, making decisions on that? There's a couple of people here today, at least Ed and myself, sit on a affordable, or not affordable, but a workforce housing board for the county. You know, any of that information being brought to the table whenever it's applicable would be appreciated.
Oh, yes, Brian.
Just a quick question, and that is, and I apologize for my ignorance, but do any of the members have, what's the polite way of phrasing it? Marijuana dispensaries or growing facilities?
We do.
We do?
We have a growing.
You have a grower
We have a
facility.
grower
An infuser.
with eventually a plan to do that.
Is it growing and infusing both, or?
They're phase 2 will be growing it, but right now it's just infusing into candies.
Okay, yeah, we've got a similar one, it's infusing only, and they're hoping to do both growing and selling on site eventually.
There's a lot of hoops to jump through, I guess.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
what I hear.
Yeah, it's 3 separate licenses, so they've got the infusing only at this point.
we don't have any. We recently updated our allowable use table because it wasn't in there before we approved it, the taxes and stuff, but it wasn't included in our use table, so we just included that.
Okay.
I've been chasing them down, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Are we missing an opportunity or something?
No, not that I'm aware. I'm just kind of wondering, I haven't really been keeping myself up to date in terms of what's going on in McHenry County as a whole, I guess, with regards to that set of opportunities, so I was just kind of interested.
Yeah, Richmond, Crystal Lake, Cary, all have them now. I know.
McHenry is getting Earthman.
Yeah,
really soon, so.
that's right.
Very interesting. Thanks.
And I will tell you, a lot of the activity, one of the first things James and I did is work with Charlie to make sure that all of the submissions that were coming in were being covered and nothing was falling through the cracks. And so we, I mean, although 95, if not more percent of those are from Harvard, so there's a lot of activity going on there. We spent a lot of time making sure that whatever was in the pipeline was getting through, so we're in good shape now.
Yeah, we even fixed a problem the company actually had with the way they went about it at the start, so it works out.
Sorry, some house cleaning.
No problem, no problem.
Really elected him getting the nuclear code. Okay. Okay. So, Nick, we have some things to sign.
Okay.
Before
These
you-
are our resolutions,
Yeah.
as far as record keeping, we wanted to keep track of our resolutions. The way we do it now with committees and county board procedure, we just have the resolutions and the chairperson and our county clerk signs them. In this case, we have a secretary, which is currently Nick, and then the chairperson, which is how it states today, because we didn't know who the actual chair would be going forward, but that would be Lou. So I'll update that name, and going forward, if Nick either remains the secretary or whomever it would be next would sign the resolutions that were approved the day of. If that works for everyone. Right, I'll keep one because it's tabled.
All right. So, other than that, anything else?
Just at the September meeting, one of the questions was how the compensation process was going to work out. Has that been settled? I mean, you guys getting paid, not getting paid yet?
Well, I don't think we haven't yet.
I haven't
But,
seen it.
you know, feel free to send it.
So I
don't know
hear
what-
3 right now.
Yeah, so that's a good deal.
Yeah, saying maybe we need to leave that alone.
I think they'd come knocking on our door pretty quick, somebody. So I don't know if you want to put that on for next month's agenda, or if it needs to be something that needs to be accelerated.
Would you be prepared to talk about it at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Absolutely, especially if we haven't gotten it yet.
So,
Yeah.
let's make sure it's on the next
Yeah.
agenda.
I mean, I don't know what the
That's a good
process
point.
would be, but it's not on our agenda, so maybe get it on the agenda so we can talk about it at the very least, or you come up with a proposal. Is that-
That's a good point, Larry, thank you.
Yeah, I think we just need to check with Jim and go on what was initially in the RFP and then
Yeah.
the documents that he had explaining.
Feel
Yeah,
free
I
to
don't think there was an
postpone
official
paying it.
agreement on how they're gonna pay it.
You can always postpone it,
Yeah, right, yeah.
so he continues to work.
I don't know that there was anything in the RFP that I remember specifically about that. It had more to do with duties and what the total cost would be, but whether it was monthly or quarterly, I don't think.
Well, I think it's gonna be in 2 installments. I
Okay.
think we're waiting for the first one.
Okay.
Well, but we don't have meetings for what, 3 months, right? Is our next meeting?
January.
January.
Well, those are the set meetings, but we can always call a meeting in between.
I mean, this is something that we need to get settled pretty quick. I mean, they
Right.
need to be
Yeah.
receiving that.
I was gonna talk to Pete today, but he's out.
Pete's
so-
out of town,
Yeah.
it's not on the agenda.
Well, I know it's not on the agenda, but I was thinking, should we not meet between now and January to get something done here?
Does anything need to be formally done other than, or, because I believe it was agreed that it was gonna be in 2 installments, so can they just release the check? Or does something, a resolution or something have to be put forward?
I'd have to refer that to Pete.
Yeah.
Peter's our county administrator, I don't know if everybody knows that.
If we do need to have another meeting, we'd be okay
Right.
with that, because then we can bring in expanding the benefits to
Oh, yeah.
multifamily as well.
That's true too.
So
Yeah.
I wait until January.
Well, let's see, next week I should be able to find out about.
Yeah,
check.
Pete's just gone for the weekend.
And then, yeah, but if you need that meeting moved, I mean, I'm available.
And we have the, well, we
Yeah,
still
we
have to elect.
Yes.
We've got that postponed. And the financial policy, yeah, so I mean, we should have another
Okay.
meeting. I'm thinking early part of December, or is that too late?
First 2 weeks of December is probably
Yeah,
best.
first 2 weeks in December, just because with the holidays in there,
Right. Yeah, I think that'd be perfect.
and then gives us, again, on our side, chance to talk to
So
everybody.
we'd like to chat.
Yeah. About this. This way we can start that process, because it's a long haul once we start.
Exactly.
The sooner we start, the better.
So December the 8th is a Friday, December the 15th.
December the 8th?
Yeah.
Let's do the 8th.
There's the first.
Mark, you okay with the 8th?
I am.
All right, thank you. All right, so December the 8th, 10 o'clock here. And we'll do some house cleaning and just a few new items.
Sounds good.
And then hopefully we heard that Woodstock has landed that plastic manufacturer, right?
Yes. Let's see if I can get them to come with me to the MCEC dinner.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Would be good introduction.
All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right.